Okay, so the last set of slides for today is the controllers and the final control element. So now we go into detail how your final control element indicates your control valve functions as the controller activates it to do what it needs to do. Now here on the topic of controllers and final control element, there are things that we need to define first. So the input in this case, we will assume we're working on a proportional controller. So the input or the thing that your controller works on is the error. The difference between the sensed value and the set value of the variable. Plus, Eugene has having difficulty. And then the output to the controller, your controller is in a form of a signal. So it's an air pressure and it's fed to the final control element. So your controller is sending a signal in the form of air pressure to your final control element, and your final control element does what it needs to do. Okay, I think I'm not transitioning. We'll stop sharing for a while, then share this particular slide again. Okay, then your final control element in this case, which is your final control valve, is the one that opens and closes. It adjusts its opening depending on the amount of heating medium that is needed, and closes also as well if the heating medium flow rate should be decreased. So it adjusts the opening based on the air pressure in which your diaphragm is being subjected to. So air pressure is working on your diaphragm for your final control element. That way, the opening is being adjusted for your, let's say, your final control element, which is the control valve. Now, the current controllers, however, are electronic or computer-based instruments. So, they're not anymore doing it manual. I think wala naman subong guro sa industry nga gina manual pa ang open kapag close ang valve. So, everything is done in the face of in the control room, wherein the controller will simply have to press on buttons and turn on knobs. Okay, so it's all electronically controlled. Now, this is a cut through of your section of your control valve. So you have the diaphragm here on top that is free to move up and down. And you have here the arrow that tells that it's receiving a signal from the controller, whether there's a need for the diaphragm to go up or go down, depending on the needed flow rate here of the heating medium. So you have this plug that will get unseated on the seat ring. That way, your fluid gets to flow through from this particular section to this section in here. So the opening of the particular portion in here where your plug is to sit on when your valve is fully closed is being adjusted by the pressure, the air pressure on top of the diaphragm. So it goes up and down in that manner. So flow from this region here for your, that's the flow rate of your heating medium, goes to your opening here. So depending on the flow rate that is needed by your process. So as to control in this case, the temperature of the fluid inside the heater. So this is your final control element. The commonly used one is the control valve. So this control valve may simply be supplying not just heating medium, but it could be only supplying the usual water that your system may be using, or it could also be the heating medium that it is controlling, the flow rate of the heating medium, depending on the fluid that it needs to supply to your particular equipment. So this is the schematic diagram of the control system for your pneumatic control valve. So you have actually here the valve. This one is your valve. And the range of pressure, the diaphragm of your final control element, which is the valve, is subjected to is 3 to 15 psig. So in this case, in this particular example, your valve controls the flow of cooling water. So we're used to saying that the control valve supplies the heating medium. So this time, the control valve here supplies the cooling water to this particular, for example, heat exchanger. So you have the hot process steam here entering your heat exchanger. And of course, the goal probably is to decrease the temperature of this hot process steam. So we expect that the temperature in this side will be lesser than the temperature in this side. So your cooling water is supplied as cooling medium and then leaves your, of course, your heat exchanger at a much higher temperature. Now, the temperature here that is leaving the heat exchanger of your fluid is being sensed by the thermocouple. So there's a thermocouple here that senses the temperature reading of the fluid leaving the heat exchanger. However, your controller cannot really read on or work on a temperature unit. So your controller is using electricity. It's manipulated and done electronically. So it cannot work on a unit that is in temperature. So what is being done in here is the temperature unit is being converted to form of an electrical signal. That particular electrical signal could be in the range of 4 to 20 milliamperes because this particular current now is the one that your controller understands. So from temperature reading, you have the transducer that converts this physical unit, let's say Celsius or Fahrenheit, into ampere unit. So it's now uh, fed to your controller in the form of an electrical signal, so in the form of current. Now your controller compares it to the set value. So you have your set point here from a recorder, and your controller now compares that particular sense value here in the form of an electrical signal. And based on the error between the set point and the sensed value, your controller will send another signal to the converter here. So there's a converter because your controller can only receive electrical signals in the form of current. So another electrical signal will be sent to your converter, which will convert it into a physical signal in the form of air pressure. That will subject your diaphragm for your control valve, whether it needs to go up or down, depending on the flow rate of the cooling water that is needed. So you have two added equipments here in your system, aside from the controller here that you have, the brain of your control system, and that's the transducer and the converter. So transducer is from the physical signal of temperature to electrical signal. Converter is from electrical signal into the physical signal, which is pressure on the that is needed on the diaphragm of your control valve. So this is just but a simple illustration of how your final control element, control valve, receives the command from the controller and acts on what is it commanded to do or directed to do in terms of the needed cooling water here in your heat exchanger. So the signals that your controller, you have to remember that the signals that your controller can work on are purely electrical. So we need converters and transducers as such. That way it can work on what we intend it to work on. Okay, so this is the schematic diagram for that. So as you could see on the schematic diagram, you have the transducer, so converts temperature to current. The controller recorder, of course, converts, there's no conversion here, but simply compares current from the set value to current that has came from the transducer. Your converter now converts the current from the controller to pressure, and then your control valve has the pressure on the diaphragm working on it to produce the needed flow rate of the cooling water. So the flow rate of the cooling water here is the goal. Now, for an ideal transfer function for a control valve. This is the transfer function of the control valve. So a first order transfer function that, if you notice, has a gain of K sub V. The subscript K sub V here denotes that it's that of the valve, the control valve. So it's the steady state gain of your control valve. This is its time constant, tau sub V. And if you look at the denominator, it really is a first order transfer function. So everything is defined here. The K sub V is the steady state gain. It is the constant of proportionality between the steady state flow rate, which is Q sub S, and the valve tap pressure, or the pressure in which the diaphragm in your final control element is subjected to. Now, the tau sub V is the time constant of the valve. Now, in many practical systems, however, the time constant of the valve is very small. That is, if there's some delay that's happening on the actuation on the final control element and its output, which is flow rate, it could be neglected because tau sub V is very small. So if this one is very small, what is left in the denominator is simply a 1. So your transfer function, which is originally K sub V over tau sub Vs plus 1, is simply uh, this one, converted to this form. So output is the flow rate of the heating or cooling medium, whatever it may be. The input is the pressure on the diaphragm of your final control valve. And this is the transfer function, which is a simple constant, or it's actually the steady state gain of your valve. Now, for a linear control valve, this particular slide, for a linear control valve and a first order system interaction, let's say you have a particular system, or let's say we'll have it represented by the subscript process. So this is process. And its transfer function is K sub P, tau sub Ps plus 1. If you're going to lump the two and get the overall transfer function of the final control element and the process, we know for one that there's only a need to multiply the transfer function. So you notice the transfer function of the original linear control valve is K sub V tau sub Vs plus 1 was multiplied to K sub P over tau sub Ps plus 1. So it's just the multiplication of the two transfer functions. Now, if it's written in the form of a block, your output here, which is Y, because you have here Y sub S, your input here is P, the pressure on top of your control valve. You have two blocks now written in between. One is for the block containing the transfer function of the valve, and the other one containing the transfer function of the process. So in one particular system, the system of the final control element, which is the valve and the process, you have these two blocks. You have this output. The output is generally represented here as Y, as any mathematical equation would represent the dependent variable as Y, because it really depends on what the process is. So it's just represented generally here as Y. But we know that the input to the final control valve is really pressure on top of the diaphragm. Now, if you're going to subject that particular uh, transfer function of the system of the control valve and the process, and it's subjected to a forcing function, which is unit step in nature. So you will have now y equal to, actually, this is y of s equal to 1 over s. In this case, the forcing function, the change is happening on the pressure in which the top of your diaphragm is subjected to, or that of your control valve is subjected to. So we just simply take out the P of S here and cross multiply it on the overall transfer function of our system block diagram, and our system control valve and process. So you have 1 over S and this one. Now, if we skip all the mathematics, when you just do your method of partial fractions, your response would be something like this. You do your partial fractions. You're expected to have 3 partial fractions here. And if you do your thing, you will have this corresponding expression for the response. Now, if we say that the time constant of the valve, the tau sub p, as indicated in the first slide, will be a lot lesser than that of tau sub p. If this one will be a lot lesser, this one, if we divide negative t by a very small value, what happens to this entire thing? It will become very big. This one, the negative t over tau sub v. Therefore, if this one is very large compared to tau sub v, this one will be small because dividing something by a large value will make it small, but dividing something with a very small value will make it large. However, your exponential functions here are negative in nature. So having a negative exponent for your exponential function will make its value very, very small. You increase your exponential function negatively, this will be very small. So it's just like what will happen here is, let me use this one. This entire expression here will be gone because this one will be negatively large. This one will be negatively large as such the e raised to a negatively large value will be 0, leaving you with this one. So your original expression here will even be made much simpler now with this expression, with this one being 0. So you are left with this. So if you notice, if this is the only thing that is left, you will have to cancel this one here. And you will have tau sub p over tau sub v minus p. But since this is very small minus very big, so that would be negatively very big here in the denominator. It would have been positive already. This negative and this negative will be positive, but you have a negative denominator. And it's just like if you take this out, this value will be 0, leaving you with a fraction which is tau sub p over tau sub p. That explains that the only constant that is left here is this one, k sub v over k sub p, this one being, let's say 1 because you can cancel it out. So you will have simply like 1 minus this remaining expression here, this one. So you have 1 minus e raised to negative t over tau sub p. Do you follow the explanation? Do you get it? Okay, let me explain it again. That way it will be much clearer. Okay. We'll do it step by step. We'll make it different colors. That way you will understand how this one in purple came about from, this original expression. So we say that your tau sub b here is very small compared to tau sub p. So this tau sub v is very small, making this negatively large because you divide by a very small value. If this becomes negatively large, this is 0. So that leaves you with negative tau sub v, tau sub p, and this denominator and this thing. So actually, if you look at it, this is negative and that is negative because this entire term is already gone out of the picture. So let's say we'll place this one as positive already because negative times negative, that's positive. So with this gone now, you can have this cancelled, the tau sub v. Okay? But still, you may think that you have tau sub p here over tau sub v minus tau sub p. If this is very small compared to this is more or less like 0. This is more or less like 0 because it's very small compared to 1,000 p. So that leaves you with 1,000 p in the numerator over negative 1,000 p here, which will cancel each other again. So that brings about the positive that you have here turning again negative. That one there is untouched. We didn't touch the one there. So you have the constant k sub v, k sub p, and then we have the one there, and we have this as the remaining expression. E raised to negative t over tau sub p, this one. Doesn't have this anymore because it got canceled here a while ago. And it's negative because this one is negative. Okay? So your original response to a step forcing function where P is your forcing function is will now be simplified in this form. Now, if you look at this one, where this came from, it says here, it's actually the step response to this particular transfer function wherein your control valve has a transfer function, which we started off a while ago in the first slide, which is simply K sub V. It doesn't anymore have the tau sub Vs plus 1 because the tau sub V is very small. The denominator was converted to a simple constant, which is 1. So true enough, this simplified response to a forcing function in P, it's coming from this simplified transfer function as well of the system of your control valve and your process. If we don't simplify it using this particular assumption that the time constant for your control valve is very small compared to that of the process, then we'll stick to the original y of s for a step forcing function in P, and we stick to this original response equation. Okay? But if the problems that say that you really have to stick to the original, then you can use the assumption and make use of this response equation already. Whatever is the output of your process, because the process is generally represented here, so that would be the variable that should be written here in your y of t, whatever is that variable may be. Do you get now how this particular purple equation came about from the original on top? You still have any questions? Okay, I think there's none. So we'll just have this. So now let's go to the types of controllers. So we have this particular control valve process y of s and its corresponding response to a step input. Now we'll go differently to a different uh, topic now, still under controllers. Now we have actually proportional control, proportional integral control, proportional derivative control, and we have proportional integral derivative control. So we're going to look into each one and later on come up with a conclusion. Why is there a need for engineers to come up with the PID controller if the proportional control will suffice in terms of bringing back whatever is the controlled variable value to its set value whenever there's a load or a disturbance that is happening to your system. Now we'll go to the simplest one, and this is the first one that was made, I think. So we have the proportional controller. Now, in the case of this controller, it produces an output signal that is proportional to the error. So its output is proportional to the error. So if you have a big error, the output will also be big. It acts proportionally to the error. And this is the case of that one. If you're wondering where this came from, so actually it came from this. It's your P minus PS equal to K sub CE. And this P minus PS is like the pressure at any time on the diaphragm minus the steady state pressure acting on top of the diaphragm of your control valve. So it would be capital P now over E. And you have here your K sub C. If you recall, this is the transfer function of your controller, K sub C, the transfer function of your controller. So you see there the C. Okay, so we just had it written this way so you would know the effect of each of the different controllers on the output P, because this one's the steady state value that's already constant. Our concern is what would be the output P for a particular type of controller. So it's defined in there. So it's defined in there that P is the output signal from the controller. Now its unit is in PSIG or milliamperes. Okay. Originally it's milliamperes, but you had it converted to PSIG using the converter that we have discussed a while ago. Your K sub C is the gain or the sensitivity. The other term to that is the sensitivity of your controller. Epsilon is the error, and P sub S is the constant pressure in which your diaphragm is subjected to, or the constant pressure in which your controller is subjecting the diaphragm of your